Good morning, everyone. My name is Coleman Garrison. I am the Government and Public Affairs Director for the Irrigation Association, and I really appreciate each of you joining us this morning for our new Coffee with the IA webinar series, where you will hear from many of IA's leaders about what is happening in the association, as well as many of our award winners. So today we're going to be hearing from the CEO of the Irrigation Association, Deborah Hamlin, as well as the president of the Irrigation Association, Bryan Wynen, about the latest news for IA, as well as getting to hear a little bit from Bryan, how he got involved in IA and how he came to become the president of the association. Over the next 4 Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, we will be hearing from award winners, Jackie Robbins and Angelo Mazie, who have received the Industry Achievement Award, Dr. Florence Castle-Sharma, who has received the Excellence in Education Award, as well as Reese Andrews, who has received the Innovator Award for the IA. Each of them will be interviewed by IA President Bryan Wynen to hear more about what they have done in the industry and how they've been involved in IA and what they see as the future of the industry. Finally, on November 2nd, we will hear from the incoming president of the IA, John Newland, who will be sworn in as the new president the following month at the Irrigation Show in San Diego, which I hope each of you are planning on attending. So that is the 6th series for this Coffee with the IA webinar series, and we're so pleased to have you join us this morning. So for today, we are proud to welcome Deborah Hamlin, the CEO of the Irrigation Association, and Bryan Wynen, the president of the Irrigation Association. So welcome to each of you this morning, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Coleman. Good to be here. And we have our coffee, so we're really having coffee with the IA. Bryan's in Vegas, so he doesn't have his IA coffee mug, but welcome, Bryan, and thanks for taking time out of your trip to be with us.
Thank you, Deborah.
So I'm going to start off the morning talking to you a little bit, Bryan. I want the folks that are listening to know a little bit more about you as president. So let's start with telling us tell us more about your business. Let's start with that.
Okay, well, the businesses all started years and years ago. My mother and father immigrated from the Netherlands back in the early 60s. And my father started in a business with his brother-in-laws, and one of them happened to be a garden center. And at this particular garden center, they sold the Moist-O-Matic back in the late 60s, the Moist-O-Matic kits that had a couple wave heads and a valve for your hose bib and the roll of hose with it, kind of your first do-it-yourself products that were sent out in the marketplace. I believe, ironically, Moist-O-Matic was at Hunter's company at the time, later bought out by Toro. Anyway, my father realized that there was a bigger industry out there. And so with that larger industry, he began to realize, the PVC pipe and other manufacturers, and started his own company in 1969 called Wisco Irrigation. I was 7 at the time, and so I would travel along with him. I think he was my babysitter, so my mom didn't have to have me at home. And I would run and get all the little fittings from the trailer for the guys putting pipe together and so forth. And that's how I began, my irrigation journey. Later on in life, in 1982, a mentor to my father, because my father never really had a person who taught him irrigation. It was pretty much self-taught. And then back then it was through distributor classes and so forth that we learned a lot about ways of doing irrigation. In 82, Terry Smith, who was a mentor to my father, suggested we go to the 1982, I think it was 82, Kansas City Irrigation Association show. And so my father and I went with Terry, and what an eye-opener. We saw so many more manufacturers and so many different things that, really in our South Bend, Indiana area were not, we did not experience that. And so, Deborah and I, you and I talked about this, that I recall being there, and whether it was an opening session, whether it was something on the floor, I can't remember 1982 that well. There was the board and a president, and I just thought, wow, how far advanced must you be to be part of that in the industry, and what a thing to try to get to. Since that time, we've worked together, my father and I, until he passed away about 18 years ago, to grow the business, of which eventually also turned out to be a national facility management company, which grew out of a national irrigation platform. And so that's where Springwise was invented 25 years ago, or came to be. And then, about 10 years ago, I got this call from a fellow named Jay Robbins. And Jay had said that I was nominated to be on the selection committee, or on the ballot, to possibly be a board member at the IA. And I was just floored. My next call was to my wife, and then a couple other people who had been with me in the business over 25 years, to say that this had occurred. And I think it took 2 years, I think, but the second year I was elected to the board, and it's been just an incredible experience. I've met some really incredible people in the industry, obviously met wonderful people that work for the IA itself, and made some lifelong friends that I'll take on with me forever.
That's fantastic. So I love that story. I love the story that you attended an event and saw the leaders up on stage, or started understanding what the organization was about, and today you're one of those leaders. So I think that's really exciting. It's a great story, and I think pretty common for the folks that come through the chairs, and lots of family businesses, and you make your way up there. So funny. Your story reminded me, I started in a family business as well that ran associations. And at probably 7, I can't remember how old I was, and my dad would bring us into the office and to put labels on envelopes, right? We would help with mailings and collating and mailing things out. And I think probably that was an alternative to babysitting as well. But look where we've both become, and what we've done with that. So that's great. And I was going to ask you, and you may have already answered the question about how the experience has impacted your business and or your your relations and just your insights. Can you go any deeper about that, as your time on the executive committee and on the board in general, making new connections? And
yeah, I mean, it's been a wonderful experience meeting everybody from CEOs of large national manufacturers to meeting other contractors like our next president, John Newland, to learning a lot more over the past 8 years about ag irrigation, and learning the different ways of which they apply the water to different plants, and trying to associate that with the goal, of course, more efficient irrigation, not only into the turf section that we work with as far as drip goes, but learning a lot more about what the ag people are doing in their discipline of the irrigation.
Sure. And that certainly helps you understand the even more the big picture, and especially when we're making decisions based on both segments of the industry.
Oh yeah.
I do think, oh, go ahead.
Here in Vegas, we did take a tour of Lake Mead, and you can see the water issue that they're looking at, and the areas now that have started to surface from below the water, because I think they're 140 feet below normal levels at this point. So I mean, water conservation couldn't be more on the upfront, especially here, as it could be anywhere, as it needs to be. So
for sure. Sure. And I think what I think is interesting, and I hope everybody caught it about your business, that really your primary business is a national facility management group. And I think that makes you a little bit more unique than some of our traditional irrigation contractors. So that is you're handling a lot more than just irrigation, but you have a bigger view of
Yeah.
all services.
In South Bend, we really, being around the Great Lakes area, there's not really a lot of need. Matter of fact, the more water you use, the bigger discount you get. So it's kind of in reverse of where other places, the more water you use, the more penalties you have.
Wow.
And so as I grew in the business, we learned a lot about, with customers, especially like in Colorado and California, Arizona, even here in Nevada, the different regulations that take place, to take care of the water that they have a limited amount of. And it really helped me to learn a lot more about the irrigation industry.
Yeah, cool. Well, great. Well, thank you for that bit of information about yourself. I think it's always good for people to get to know the president. And sometimes in the past, we've just left it for meeting you at the show. So I love the idea that there's going to be a series of these. We'll get to know you better, and as well as when we get to know the award winners coming up on our future.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I want to hear more about what's going on at the IA, and I'm excited about the show coming up. We haven't been together in a couple of years, and so I'm very excited that everybody's going to get together. So can you tell us a little bit about how that's going?
Yeah, excellent. The show must go on, right? We're having our irrigation show in San Diego, December 8th to, well, actually the trade show is the 8th through the 9th, but there are activities the entire week starting on the 6th, which is a Monday when IA University starts. We have classes Monday through Thursday. Folks that want to stay around for the weekend can take an exam on Friday, but Friday is pretty much closing down the show after that. We're still in COVID, right? I think that has been one of the challenges that we've been a little nervous about, but I have been talking to members, I've been traveling around, and it looks like we still are going to have an excellent turnout. We, as you can imagine, follow our attendance numbers very carefully, and even more so this year. And so far, we have 85% of our traditional people that are registered at this point are registered today. So that is outstanding, and makes me feel really hopeful for the future. For sure, we will have some guidelines, some COVID guidelines that we have to follow. Our website is irrigationshow.org, and on that website is a series of FAQs. And under that area, you can find out the COVID guidelines for San Diego. San Antonio was supposed to be last year. I'm still stuck on our 2020 meeting that we missed. San Diego. And so there are some guidelines that we have to follow today. As of November 1st or 10th, I can't remember, it'll be in your FAQs. You would have to, for events like ours that are over 1,000 people, you will have to show at least a proof of vaccination or proof of a negative COVID test to walk in the door. That is the rule of San Diego. That is not our rule. That's actually the rule of the state. They are revisiting it weekly and will let us know if that changes. So keep watching our site to see if that changes. So right now there is actually not a mask mandate except for those that are unvaccinated. So I think these things should not be too big of a burden for folks to be able to attend our show. We have the classes and our exams are actually at a higher rate than they were last year. So we have more people today signed up than traditionally in our last 3 years. And that just bodes really well for the rest of the weeks to come. I think that it has been a while since people have gotten together, and it's going to be nice to see everybody face to face,
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the classes and how they're up there in enrollment. And I know my first certification was as an auditor. And I think since then I've gotten 3 more. And I can't encourage people enough that if you haven't done any kind of certification, at least go with the service tech certification to get one under your belt. It's a little bit of class. You'd be surprised how much you might learn about different things that you took for granted before. And then have that certification to put behind your name, or if somebody asks if you've got any certifications, and then from there you can look at whether certified irrigation contractor or something else would be good for you to kind of continue on with your professional services in irrigation. So yeah, I really enjoyed the classes I took and enjoy the certifications I've got. So
great. Yeah, it really is the best time. We do have virtual learning, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute, but face-to-face, I still think is the best way to learn if at all possible. And so that is coming to San Diego and doing that in person, and then taking the exam right afterwards when it's fresh in your mind is always really the best way, and we see the most success. So that is great. So IA University is going to continue to take place. The show will look a little different this year, however. We were a little nervous with COVID, and so we planned an event that is really much more focused on the trade show. So we are not actually having a general session and keynote this year. One of the reasons why we're doing these series, so that we get to meet our award winners that we might not be able to meet in person. By doing it online, we have the ability to have even more people meet the award winners than just the folks that come to the show. So instead of having a session like that, taking people away from the trade show, we have trade show hours for 2 days, and want to give you all the most opportunities possible to meet with your business partners and to learn more about things. And that is really the focus of the show this year, is having more time to have meetings, what's good for your business. And of course, there's education. I should mention that this is the decennial, which is always a big word, that every 10 years, we partner with the American Society of Agricultural and Biological Engineers for the Irrigation Symposium. They take over what is traditionally our technical session, and it's a lot of research, but not completely all research. And they have 20 to 30 minute sessions to hear about ag research as well as landscape research. So their event is taking place in conjunction with ours, and that is full speed ahead as well. And then we will also have additional landscape seminars, just because we know that we have more people certified and certifications on the landscape side. And we want to make sure that you can get all of your CEUs in one place this year. So those are pretty much the big things that are going on at the show. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything, Coleman. I'll look to you to see. Of course, this is your first year, so you may say, what?
It is, yeah. Everything's going to be new for me, just starting just several months ago. But I know I'm excited to just walk the trade show floor and see the wide diversity of companies and exhibitors who are joining us in San Diego. I think, coming from a bit outside the irrigation industry, it's going to be exciting to see how big the irrigation industry really is and how many different areas it touches across the country. So I know that's one of the things I'm excited about, and obviously meeting our many members that will be there.
Yeah, and I think when people come to our hall, and Brian, you may hear the same things, if it's a first time for people, they cannot believe the technology. They cannot believe how professional and all the cool things that we can do in irrigation. And so that's really the most impressive part, I think, is walking into that hall the first day and just being blown away with
I think there's so much to learn in technology and water application that anybody can come and learn something, no matter how many years. I know I go, and I've been doing this since I was 7 years old, so over 50 years. And yet every time I go there, there's a new cloud or a new application, a new way the weather can be brought into a controller to help conserve water. And in turn, it conserves the system itself, the pumps that power the systems. So yes, I couldn't encourage it just to come and walk the show and talk to the vendors. Or the exhibitors. They'll tell you about their product. You might look at a product and think, oh, neat, and it probably does 10 more things than you can imagine. So can't encourage people enough to come to the show and talk to the exhibitors and learn about their products, and just be part of the whole experience.
Well, I think maybe one area that we haven't covered yet, speaking of new technologies, is what I understand a new part of the show, which is the new Innovation Row. And where we'll be able to host startup irrigation technology companies looking to promote their business to the irrigation industry. I know that is something I'm excited to see. I'm sure it will blow my mind, some of the technologies that these new companies are coming up with.
That's right. It's called Innovation Row and Innovation Hub. And so a couple of years ago, we tried a pitch competition for a few years, and we're bringing that back. And we now have a set of exhibitors that, or tabletops really, that are going to be associated with that. So we can, it's more than just the pitch. We'll be able to talk to them throughout the show. So thanks for mentioning that. That is new this year, and that's exciting.
Yep. And is there something about the new product contest being done differently this year?
Well, the new product contest, since we had to go virtual last year, is going to be, the judging is going to be virtual again this year, because like this event that we're having today, more people can actually see the judging if we publish it online. So we are making that open to folks. And in fact, I should, but I don't have it off the top of my head what the dates are. I think it's coming up in November. And we will still present awards and make the announcements of the awards at the show, at Innovation Hub, actually, on the show floor, but the judging will happen beforehand. So all of the products are already online, and you can see that on our show website. And then everybody will be getting, members and non-members alike actually will be getting notified via email about the new product contest judging time, so people can sign up to see whether they want to see the agricultural products or the landscape products.
I know for myself, we have several products that we found through the new product contest that we currently have today, in our portfolio of products that we sell, as well as many tools that make things easier on installers and designers and so forth. So just want to say it's a great thing to have, and everyone should keep an eye on it to see if it's something that could help their company.
Yeah, it is great.
I think that's as good of a testimonial as you can have right there for paying attention to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever we do our surveys from the show, learning about new products is the #1 reason that people come to our show. So all that is great. I think I should just talk a little bit about some of the other things that are going on too, besides the show, although that seems to be our focus from this point of the year for the rest of the last quarter of the year. I do want to reintroduce Coleman. He introduced himself earlier, and I just want to say how pleased I am as the new Director of Government and Public Affairs. As of June 1, Coleman is doing a fabulous job. We've already done some member visits, and he actually has come from the ag side of the business. And so reaching out and learning a little bit more about the landscape side of the business. But in the first few months he's been here, I think he's done a great job. He's absorbing all of the landscape stuff, has helped me out with our SWAT program, which is the Smart Water Applications Technologies, where we work closely with water providers. And so he now knows more than I do about some of this stuff already. So thank you, Coleman, and thanks for hosting this series.
Absolutely exciting to be here, and looking forward to continuing to meet our members virtually, on the phone, as well as, in just about 2.5 months in person in San Diego. Yeah. And so in his first time, within the first 2-3 months, Coleman has actually put together 2 new advocacy committees. So we used to have a government affairs committee and standards and codes committees, and we've blended them into advocacy committees, one for landscape and one for ag. So you will be seeing a lot more about that as those groups start to meet and we make some new decisions and update our position statements. So Coleman is going to be shooting out some regular emails. I don't know what regular is, but we're going to communicate all the stuff that we're doing with him at the helm, and I'm really excited about that. So thank you. Brian, you mentioned certification and classes, and I did want to say that, though COVID was difficult for us in so many ways, and there are some learning experiences and some positive things that have come out of it that we're going to stick with. And one of them is our virtual conferences and classes. So we had really great success with a few conferences that we started
in 2020. And also we have put many of our classes on as options. We do them live. We're trying not to do as much as recorded so that there is some interaction between the student and the teacher, but we will continue that because it just gives more options for people to be able to continue their education without having to travel. Just 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we had our first virtual technician week. And I want to do a shout out to Brightview for sponsoring. So thanks, Brightview. That was excellent. It was a series of classes through the entire week, and we had excellent attendance, and the feedback has been very, very positive. So we will probably repeat that another time in the year. Again, it's not quite the same as if you can be there in person, but it is something that we will continue on even after we fully get through this pandemic.
Yeah, I'd like to say just, in getting the CEUs, getting these things done virtually the way you guys have, and they've been much more interactive than the way we used to just watch videos. So I think it's a great thing to have. But at the same time, I think that when you go to the IA convention and then go to the classes, you'll meet the teachers. They really take a personal approach to teaching their class. I mean, you get to know them very well. You get to know people in the class. And that's where I think you really can create a lifelong friendships with other people within the industry that you'll count on and call on potentially throughout the year to say, hey, I've got this situation. What would you do, or what advice can you give me? And so can't encourage people enough to come to the IA show and make those friends and peer groups that you eventually will use for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. The big shout out to all of our instructors for the hard work they do. They've done for years. Some of these instructors have been teaching longer than I've been here, which is 15 years. And it's like they're almost like university professors. These are college level courses in my mind, and really teaching you how to do things correctly. And it's a great program. So thank you for saying that, Brian.
You're welcome. I can't say enough about the instructors. I think they're all wonderful. I've had great experiences with many of them. And if they don't have an answer, they know exactly where to get it. So they're great people to know.
Great, smart people. The last thing I wanted to mention before Coleman takes the hook and makes us leave the stage is that we are excited to announce an economic impact study that we are doing in conjunction with the Irrigation Innovation Consortium. We hope, I think I have the draft report in my inbox this morning. So we're going to go through that. We will, what is today? Today is the end of September. In October, we'll make the official announcement. So you guys are getting a preview, an official announcement. And then in November, we will do a webinar so that with the researchers, so that we can share all the results. The last time we did an economic impact study was 10 years ago. We should be doing them more frequently, but 10 years later, we can benchmark ourselves against where we were. And I think you'll be pleased with the number. There's certainly growth in this industry, and just more growth to come. And I'm just excited to have that kind of data for us and for you as members of the industry to help you in your businesses. And that is all I had to share on our coffee day. I don't know if Coleman, you had anything else to add?
No, I think appreciate everyone who's been on the call today for joining. Hopefully you learned some information about the IA show or the Irrigation Show, and hopefully you can visit the website and frequently ask questions to find more information. You can always reach out to any of the staff here at the Irrigation Association to get that information as well. So that wraps up our first session of the Coffee with the IA webinar series. The next one will be next Tuesday, October 5th, featuring Jackie Robbins, the winner of the Industry Achievement Award. And again, just a thank you to Hunter and Senninger for sponsoring the awards. This year, we'll have 4 weeks of award winners where you can hear more about them. And we appreciate each of you for joining this morning.
Great.
Oh, thank you, Coleman. I appreciate it. And thank you.
Thanks, everybody.